So I'm just picking up where we left off in the last video. This is part 3, modeling mechanical distribution, horizontal main and branch duct. We covered modeling the actual mains and branches in the other part of this video. In this part of the video, I'll show you how to put in air terminals. So let's open up a floor plan and an elevation. And we'll start with the exhaust terminals because they're a little bit easier. These are going to be exhaust grills. So come up here into Systems, then Air Terminal. Choose which air terminal I want, in this case an exhaust grill. These are by default loaded into the course template. So it's a 24 by 24 connection. I have my level 1, and my host. It's a 10-foot ceiling in the bathroom, so I pick that. And I'll put one in the middle of the room in the ladies' room and one in the middle of the men's room. That's about it. It's pretty simple. You can see how they show up here in plan. I can always change them if I need to. They're pretty easy to move around. As you can see, these are still just simply, the line color is still black. That's because until I connect this to a system, they won't really get the color coding of the rest of the system. But we'll connect them to the system after we lay them out. So I'm just going to keep moving through. Air terminal, select type. Let's do supply. Put this guy here. Put another one over here. Hitting escape just to get out of the tool. Back to air terminal again. Oops. Sorry, I added supply when I meant to add returns. Let's just change those over to returns. There we go. Now air terminal, supply diffuser, 24 by 24. And I'm just going to start putting these in. Like I said, as I have said in all of these, I'm not a mechanical engineer, and the locations of these are not optimal. But I think they'll do the trick. So I'm just kind of putting these up to the side of my ring duct here. One over here. One here. One here. Some of these I've already created branch for. Some of these I will need to create branch. Need to create more branch for them. Oh, and then one here in my mini gallery. Oh, and as you can see, I did not select, when I place these, my offset, but it's pretty easy to change that. I just need to select one, go to select all instances, visible in view, and then I'll change that to 16 feet. That actually reminds me, I should check what I did for my returns, which I did the same thing. So I'll change that to 16 feet. And now the last step of this is, well, actually before I get into the last step, what you're looking at right now is the bare D- minimum that you should have for next Friday's meeting with your consultants. I think anything less than this, you'll really be in trouble for the midterm. This is, at the very least, shows them your strategy for the distribution, as well, your strategy for the branch, the risers, and then of course the where you're distributing air to. If you have anything less than this, like I said, you're really kind of setting yourself up for failure at the midterm. Now, the last step is just kind of connecting these things up. Now, the interesting thing about ducts is they actually have a tool. They have this option called Create Duct. So when I select a duct, I could create duct from here. We don't want to do that because I actually don't want to create more duct. I want to keep this in placeholder land. So I'm not really going to create that duct. The nice thing to keep in mind though is when I click on this duct, I can see what kind of duct, or sorry, when I click on this air terminal, I can see what kind of duct goes into it. In this case, it is 12 by 12 duct. That's also written over here. It tells me it accepts a 12 by 12 in duct, which in this case means supply. Out would mean exhaust or return. So I'm just going to start connecting these up. The terminals where I already have some branch modeled, I can just drag it over. It's giving me this warning saying that required fittings, something like this, but I'm not really too worried about that. Drag this guy over. Do the same here. I'll come back for these later where I still have to model more branch for them. And just so you see what's happening, when I drag that over, sorry, I'm going to have to bounce around the screens a little bit here. When I drag that over, it's actually creating a little placeholder connection here. And once again, this is placeholder connection, so that's not really going to come down at a 90-degree angle. That's actually just standing in for the fitting that will eventually be here, which will be a nice smooth radius, because air, just like water, wants to flow through a nice smooth path and not go through kind of a corner. So I'm just going to continue pulling these down, and this one too. You can always ignore Revit errors. You can't really, or Revit warnings. You can't really ignore Revit errors. Now, I left this one in. This is actually going to be a problem because, like I said, this placeholder, when I convert this to real duct, is going to become a radius. And when that becomes a radius, it's not going to want to have a duct running into the corner, into the radius itself. But I'm going to leave that in because I want you to see what it looks like when we try to do it that way. So that's it for those. Oh, let me get one more. And now I'm just going to do create some more branch so that I can connect up these others. And to do that, I have my 12 by 12, and then I need to have this connect to the height of my duct, which if I select my duct, I see it's 18'6". So come back in here. It's on my list. Yes, it is 18'6". And then I simply draw from here to here. It's kind of key that I make sure, it doesn't really matter if you go from duct to terminal or terminal to duct, but it is important that I am snapping to the duct and snapping to the center of the terminal. If I'm not snapping to the center of the terminal, it won't create that automatic connection for me. Here you go. If you look over here on the screen, you'll actually see it create this connection. There you go. That's what that looks like. This one's also going to be problematic. I can tell right from here that this is not going to have the radius that I need to create that duct. So there we go. It looks like I got them all. I'm going to leave exhaust out of this for now so we can just kind of keep moving. And as you can see, I have kind of a nice looking 3D distribution plan here. Now this, if we're talking about next week, I would say this is like the C plus maybe level of detail for me. Actually no, this is a very good amount of work to have when you meet with your consultants next week, because they can see how things connect up, they can see what you've done with the terminals, you can talk to them about the sizes, and if you haven't decided on the cross-sectional areas of your duct yet with your consultants, then now is a good time to do it before you convert the placeholder duct over to duct. So now let's take a look at converting to duct. I'm going to do this in 3D just so you can see how this works, but I could really select these in any view. So I'm going to start selecting. You can select, I can probably grab these all in one go. Let's see if I can get that, pull that off. Okay, I grabbed a lot more stuff than I wanted to, so let me just kind of deselect. It's all right if you select the terminals. What you can't do is select two different systems. So for instance, I can't select supply and return, or supply and exhaust. I can only select supply, but I can select multiple objects because it's just looking for the duct placeholders. I'm going to hit convert placeholders. I have a couple of different duct runs that it's asking me about. Which ones do I want? And I'm going to say all of them. Takes a minute to think. And then there you go. Like magic, I get duct. Got a thin line so you can see that a little better. Sorry. Here we go. So you can kind of see what we're looking at. You can also see some funny things happening here. Once again, I warned us. I said that we're going to have an issue if we try to put these branches too close to the corner. So if you look here, in this case, it didn't even try to connect that branch. And in this case, it tried, but it gave me this kind of funky thing. Now this is the reason why we do this in Revit instead of doing this in Rhino, because I can actually move this over now. Delete that old messy connection that was there before. And I can clean this up. See? Got it all back. I have my ducts transition, my T, and this. And all this is telling me is that I need to think a little harder about where I have distribution happening. So I'm just going to finish up this last piece of duct here, and then before we move on to the other side of the building, I'm just going to go into fast forward real quick. I don't know that you need to really get into the detail. You can slow it down if you want to, or if you want to see everything again. Here we go, just kind of moving it from the edge, converting it over to duct. And that's it. I have what looks like a reasonable duct system. Now the other way I could go with this is I could have fed it through the floor. If I go to, I'm going to show you just very quickly how to feed through the floor. So if I go to air terminal and I come down here to supply diffuser standard, you notice it's not letting me put this anywhere because it wants me to put it in a wall, which I could do. I could put one right there and have a basically a linear diffuser coming out of my wall. I could also do on work plane, and now it's letting me put it on the floor. See, it's placement level 2. And sometimes what you'll see is you'll see these right next to the window so that you can control your heat loss. If I come back out here and look, there those are. And what I would do is I just simply have, I mean right now it's tough because I have duct already in my level 1 ceiling, but in another situation I would have duct running to this. And same thing, it's a 6-inch, I have 6-inch duct that's going to come out of this. So it's a 6-inch in. I could kind of pull round duct out if I wanted to and make that go into my system. Round can go into square duct, that's not a problem. So that's it. Once you have this done, copy it up to the upper floors, and you're good to go. If you have this for next week, you'll be in really good shape. You should have this for the midterm because it shows that you're thinking about how your mechanical stuff is going to fit in the ceiling. And like I said, I think you're going to want to do this in Revit instead of Rhino because look, I can move my system around now. It all flexes. It's not going to flex in Rhino if this is just kind of a frozen sweep. Thank you for listening. See you guys next week.